This video has been promised for an extremely long time, and I never got around to doing it because I feel like for somebody to make a tutorial about this subject, it would either have to be the best or extremely good, and I didn't feel like it was either of those things. But it's been some years and nobody's really given a complete guide about this, so I guess I'll be the one to lay everything out. Again, I'm not one of the best, I just so happen to know what I'm doing. If there's any pros out there that want to correct any mistake I make in this video, feel free to do so in the comment. Also, I'm not making a fucking CAS LA tutorial, so get somebody else to do it. With all that out of the way, welcome to How to Fly Jets in Project Reality, also known as CAS Jets. There's 5 types of fixed wing aircraft in the game: turboprop, light attack, heavy attack, fighter bombers, and strike fighters. This video is going to focus on strike fighters because that's the main type of aircraft you'll be in most of the time, but I will cover the other ones later on. Now, before we get into the basics, you need to understand the term asset denying. Asset denying is where you prevent the enemy team from using valuable tools they have on the field, such as FOBs, TOWs, APCs, tanks, and CAS. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a lat kit and you shoot an enemy APC, but you don't kill it, but you still damaged it though. So that APC has to go back to either their main base or a repair station, taking it out of the fight. This is denying the usage of the asset, which allows your team to position better. Strike fighters excel at this job since it's an asset that is loitering in the sky unseen and can one-shot any asset in the game, and they only have to show themselves for 5 seconds before disappearing into the sky again. Strike fighters are a tool, and it's the most powerful one in the game. So if you master it, you can basically carry your team. So first off, you'll need the pilot kit. Hold T next to the plane or crate and scroll down to the pilot and left click. Now what you're gonna do is walk up to a jet and press whatever key you use to enter to get into it. Now, there's gonna be a lot of things on your screen, but I will go over each of them. To your top left is going to be the speed, indicating how fast you're going. Below that is your throttle, which indicates how much power you're giving the engine. And even further below is going to be your current weapon selected and the amount of flares you have left. To the top right, you're going to have the altitude, which shows how high you are. And in the middle, you're going to have a reticle for whatever weapon you have selected, along with this long green line that shows your tilt, which is how the aircraft is positioned currently. Keep in mind that all the jets will have the same exact HUD element positions no matter what nation it's from, meaning the speed indicator will always be at the top left and so on. So now I'm going to go over takeoff and landing. Strike fighters do not require a lot of runway room to take off, but taking off is going to depend on one of these 2 factors. Is the airbase on the map or is it off the map? If the airbase is on the map, you're going to perform a standard takeoff. To taxi, you're going to use the up and down arrow to move forward and backwards, but you have to use the A and D key to turn left and right using the up arrow key. Alternatively, you can do this with your mouse. Once you're on the runway and are confident that you have enough space to take off, you're going to hold the W key to give your engine power. You can also hold shift to activate the afterburners, which allow you to lift the plane sooner. Use your mouse to lift yourself up and control the plane. Also, I forgot to mention that you need to continue holding down the W key or your plane will stall and you'll blow up. So as long as you're in the air, you need to be holding W. Now I will go over off-map airbase takeoff. The following method can only be done in strike fighters and some fighter bombers. This takeoff is called fast takeoff. What you're going to do is when you get into the jet, you're going to hold W and shift and then take off straight away. The reason why this takeoff can't really be done on a lot of the on-map air bases is because they normally have a lot of sandbags or walls or random dips in the ground, and you'll just blow up if you hit one of them. To land the aircraft, fly to an airfield, then you're going to let go of W while approaching the runway, but make sure to tap W sometimes to give the engine some power in case you don't land properly.
I don't want to talk to them. What is hide, we can push.
Above.
You're going to also start tapping down on the arrow key. If you find yourself going too fast on the landing, you can do 3 things. Hold W, fly away, and try to redo the landing. Use your cannon to stop the aircraft. Your cannon reduces your plane's speed, so if you fire it in increments, you'll eventually stop. Or eject. No matter what speed you're landing at, as long as the landing gear is down, you can jump out of the plane to immediately stop it, but you will die in the process. If your airfield is off map, everything I just said applies, but some players have a hard time finding the airfields off map. So to find it, all you need to do is read what it says. Airfield southwest 4 kilometers. That means you're going to point your compass at the bottom towards southwest and then fly in that direction to eventually find the airfield. Taking off and landing are very important, and you need to keep practicing these 2 elements over and over again until you perfect it. Every strike fighter has the exact same loadout. 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard will activate a different weapon of said loadout, and your HUD will change depending on what you have selected. 1 is for cannon, 2 is for short-range AA missile, 3 is for long-range AA missile, and 4 is for bombs. Alternatively, you can cycle the weapons by using the F key, and you can also press X for flares. Your cannon can destroy any aircraft in the game, alongside infantry and light vehicles, and can even damage APCs and tanks if you hit the right spot. An important thing to note about the cannon is that it does come with an FCS system, which is short for fire control. Basically what it does is whenever you point at a jet or a helicopter, it'll lock onto it and show you where you need to point your nose and fire to hit the aircraft. But this does give the enemy a lock-on tone, so usually the enemy aircraft will start flaring, which will throw off the cannon lock. The next weapon is short-range AA missile. These missiles require you to be close to the aircraft you want to hit. When you're in proximity of the enemy aircraft and your nose is pointed at them, you'll start to hear a tone. You must wait until the tone changes and then click to fire. Short-range missiles can only be used really close to the target, so if you aren't confident in your cannon skills, then you should use them. They're better than the long-range missiles due to their ability to make very tight turns at impossible angles. Its major downside is flares breaking the lock pretty easily. Our next weapon is the long-range AA missile. This weapon is the most important one because besides it being plentiful in numbers, which is 4, it also serves as your radar. I say that with quotes, by the way. Unlike its short-range brother, the long-range has the ability to lock on to targets very far away, sometimes even outside the render distance of an enemy jet. Whenever an enemy jet is in front of your nose, a green box will appear. However, what makes this different from the short range is that there's no lock-on tone. You instead have to look at the box and wait until it turns into a crosshair symbol or until you hear a woman's voice faintly say "locked" to fire. Our last weapon is bombs. What is important to note that when you have bombs selected and you're diving towards the ground, it will activate an FCS, which shows you a circle, and in the center of that circle is where your bomb will go when you drop it. There's 2 types of bombing you can do. Laser bombing is done by having a spotter or squad leader on the ground using the GTLD to laze a target for you. When a target is lased and you're diving towards the laze, you'll see a green box or a triangle on the target, and all you have to do is guide your circle towards that and drop the bomb.
Lays on tank.
In the skies, actually, you do that.
Coming down. See him. Bomb outs.
Very good.
Dumb bombing is basically bombing but without a laze, and should only be done if you have great eyesight or if you know the exact location of the target you're trying to destroy.
I mean, gunfight, there's a head kit.
Mark the tanks. Mark the tank.
Okay, trying to. Yeah, I know. There's a...
When you're coming down to bomb a target, make sure that you start pre-flaring as soon as you can see the ground. The reason you do this is so that ground AA cannot lock your jet while you're trying to bomb a target. If you don't pre-flare, they get a lock on you and you just die, and you possibly don't kill the target. And that would be a waste, right? Now that I'm done covering the basis of everything, we're going to start transitioning into the more advanced aspect of jets. The second half is going to go over many of the things I do to stay alive and always win. When CAS first spawns, you're going to be against enemy CAS as well usually, unless they crash on the airfield or something. You need to place yourself at an altitude of at least 1500 to 2100. The reason you do this is so that you're out of the render distance of enemy ground AA. While you're at this altitude, you should also be looking for enemy CAS using your long-range AA missiles, because remember, you can see CAS from very far away with the green box that appears on your screen. Camera angles is also another tool you can use to see around your jet. These keys are weapons 7, 8, and 9. 7 is left view, 8 is top view, and 9 is right view. The cycle camera key is also used to look behind you. The camera angles are important because it increases your situational awareness and reduces the chance of an enemy jet sneaking up on you. And these angles should be used at all times. Now back to altitude. You never know where the enemy jets are going to be, which is why I always fly just barely outside the render distance of the ground, which would be at about 1400. The reason for this is so that I'm always below the enemy jets, and it just so happens that there's no camera angle that shows underneath your plane. This is how I always get the jump on the enemy. And another benefit from flying low is that I can quickly respond to any lasers given or targets that are spotted by my team. Of course, I do switch it up from time to time and fly at 2000 or so. The overall objective is to be as unpredictable as possible, basically. All of the community loves to complain about AA missiles, myself included, and they love to claim that it's all RNG. But in reality, it's just positioning errors from the user. Look at this map and tell me what you see. If you said it's a shitty 4-kilometer desert map, you're half correct. But what you need to see is how you should be positioning yourself on the battlefield. Let's say you're on the blue 4 side and you're coming into the map. This is your space and this is the enemy space. Usually you don't cross into these zones because that's where the jets are coming out from. Anything outside these boxes is neutral space in the air. Now, depending how you're positioned in the neutral space, your risk factor may go up. Diving towards the middle and search for enemies is the riskiest thing you can do because you're opening yourself up to be attacked from all sides. When flying around the map, you always need to be aware of how someone can come up behind you. Now, if you ride the edge of the map, let's say the right side, the enemy can only come for you at 2 angles. We can double down on this risk factor and fly outside the map at a low altitude to eliminate any risk of enemy CAS finding you. If you pair this with a good spotter, you can kill all the enemy tanks and never even have to fight the enemy CAS. Positioning plays a heavy part in jet CAS, and honestly it just requires trial and error to perfect it. But once you do it, you'll see the crazy game-changing plays you can make. On all of the maps, you will have at least 1 or 2 wingmen with you. It's important to know basic communication in order to keep each other alive. You should always let your partners know what altitude you're at, and both of you should be paying attention to your maps so you know where you're both at all times. If you see enemy CAS or if you get locked, you need to immediately let your partners know what altitude you're at. This is the most important information that a lot of the players mess up with. Even if the missile kills you, if you got locked on first, you can still let your partner know if you hear the enemy at your altitude so he can maybe try to come get the kill.
All around me now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they don't see me. They don't see me. Both dead.
Okay. Damn. Dogfighting in general should be avoided. You should always try to get a long-range missile out on the enemy. But what if it doesn't work? Well, of course you need to dogfight. I can't really explain to you how to dogfight because that's something you just need to experience on your own. But I can give you some tips. If you're in a 1v1 situation and all friendly and enemy jets are up, you should start pre-flaring in 3 to 4 second intervals. What this does is prevent the second enemy jet from sneaking up on you and getting a long range off on you while you call your partner over to help. Now, I'm not saying you should use up all of your flares. If you pay attention and know where the enemy jets are positioned, you'll be able to tell if they're trying to lock you up or not. All the strike fighters turn better when you're using afterburners. But when dogfighting, you don't want to be the first one to use up all of the afterburner because it only has a total of 60 seconds of use time. It does recharge, but some jets recharge their afterburner faster than others. Sometimes you only need to use the afterburner in intervals. You boost for 3 seconds, stop for 2, or you can do whatever you want. If you want a whole boost, then you can do that. That's perfectly fine. Another tip from the community is to set your pitch up to an easy to reach key. The reason why you do this is so that you can keep a consistent turn rate while dogfighting. A lot of people put their pitch up to spacebar, for example. But personally, I use my mouse to turn. But again, you should do whatever works for you best. I cannot tell you exactly what to do. Now, I finally want to move back over to altitude and how it affects the way your plane moves. The higher you are, the faster your plane's base speed will be. At higher altitudes, such as 2,500 to 4,000, the planes become on par with each other a little bit. Another thing that can happen up here is spinning out. This happens when you try to turn too fast while your speed is high. Planes with lower speeds are less likely to be affected by this aspect. If you know the enemy plane is better than yours, you should try to use this against him. Over here speaking to you, I'm about to crash this thing into the sandbag.
Yeah, you should keep crashing. Only talk to
I'm getting
bitch.
lost. I got a jet on me.
See you. Where's... Oh, here. He's
Nice.
dead. And that's all I have for strike fighters. We will now be moving on to fighter bombers. For fighter bombers, nothing really changes except the fact that it's operated by 2 people instead of 1. The first person will be the pilot, and the pilot is in control of the plane and only has access to cannons, short range, and sometimes long range missiles depending on which fighter bomber you're in. The second person is the gunner and is in control of the bombs and air to ground missiles. Fighter bombers are not as maneuverable as strike fighters and should be used only as a supporting fighter to assist strike fighters patrolling or be used as bait. They do make for pretty good fighters at high altitudes though. What makes fighter bombers different is that they have double the bombing payload of a strike fighter, that being 3 to 8 bombs and at least 4 to air ground missiles. When bombing, the pilot needs to make sure he's not moving the plane so much because the gunner needs to be able to guide the ordnance to the target. There's only one new weapon I haven't gone over yet, and that's the air-to-ground missiles. These missiles should only be used against armored vehicles since they barely have any splash damage to kill infantry. When targeting with the gunner cam, you have 2 modes. You have LG and LT. LG stands for laser guided and LT stands for laser tracking. LG is guided by you. You left click to adjust where the bomb goes. LT is guided by a spotter or squad leader that's lasing. All you have to do is look at the laze and wait until it locks on, and then when you drop it, the bomb will automatically go to where the laze is. Bomb out.
Down?
He's been destroyed.
Down.
Bomb out.
Wait, do you hear any footsteps around you?
Should be dead.
Minutes.
One last trick I stole from Phantom's YouTube channel is when you're either in the F-15 or Tornado bombers, you're faster than the strike fighters. So if you get into a dogfight with one, you won't be able to outturn them, but you can outrun them. So what you do is immediately go vertical and use your afterburners and dump flares as they're going up behind you every 2 seconds. The fighters will not be able to catch up to you and you'll exit out of their render distance, saving the plane.
In the open. Yeah.
Jet on our left, jet on our left, jet on our left.
What's your alt? What's your alt?
Because we're about to get ordered.
We're good, we're good, we're good. I don't see him, I don't see him. Behind us on the right, behind us on the right.
They got
Spot.
What's your alt? What's your alt? Alt means?
700.
tree, prime.
He's still on us, he's still on us. Yeah, I see one. I can't see him. He's still on us, I think. He's still on us, still on us. He's a bomber. I see him on bomber cam. Spotted. He's spinning out, I think. I can't tell.
Yeah, bro.
He's off us. He's off us.
And now we will move on to ground attack planes. Ground attack jets are the slowest in the game, but have the heaviest armor that can shrug off lots of cannon rounds and have access to a large loadout. Cannons, bombs, rockets, air-to-ground missiles, and short-range AA is all they have. The only new weapon here is the rockets, and these can be used on anything, though I do recommend just using them on infantry or FOBs. You can kill tanks with them, but you have to use the entire payload, like the entire rocket payload. Like the fighter bomber, ground attack planes have the air-to-ground missiles. Although you still require lays to use them, the difference is that you will now get a tone when locking onto a lays. It will sound just like a short-range missile lock-on. Once you lock onto it, you just click. These jets should not be used to dogfight, but if the situation requires it, then go ahead. We'll now move on to light attack jets. I'm gonna be real with you. Light attack jets are the worst jets in the game, and you should avoid using them. These include the Harrier, Fitter, Fishbed, and some of the Argentina planes. These planes usually have a terrible turn rate, except for the Harrier, which is fairly good at turning. But these planes only have short-range missiles with rockets, air-to-ground missiles, and sometimes bombs. They're really slow planes, just like ground attack jets, and they just suck, man. Don't use them. Actually, I want to quickly go over the Harrier. There's two ways you can take off with the Harrier: normal takeoff and vertical. To activate VTOL mode, hold S or your down throttle key. After a few seconds, the plane will begin to lift. Once you're in an altitude about 175 or 250, you can hold W or your increased throttle key to give the engine power and to go back into jet mode. To land the Harrier, come in towards the carrier or the airfield and hold down S. Make sure you're at about 300 to 400 altitude when doing this. When your jet is changing to VTOL mode, sometimes it might invert your controls. This is why it's important to keep the plane level and to not move it so much while you're switching modes. If you make the wrong move while switching to VTOL mode, you will crash. Let go of S when you're in VTOL mode to come down slowly, and if you need to go back up, hold down S again. Tilt your plane forward to move forward while in VTOL mode and tilt it back to go back. It's kind of like a helicopter. Prop planes. Well, all you need to know is that the BF-109 is better than the P-51. And you don't have FCS on anything. I mean, it's World War II. The BF-109 gets one bomb, rapid fire machine guns, and a cannon that destroys the P-51 in literally 5 shots.
Gamer.
What time is it for you, Misa?
It's morning, bro.
Oh, and it also gets afterburners, or whatever the World War II equivalent is called. And the P-51, it just sucks, man. It's armed with only machine guns and rockets. And it also has no afterburner / engine overclock. I don't know what you want to call it. It sucks, bro. Just avoid playing World War II CAS. Just play infantry. Oh, and there's also the Sky Raider. It's only on 2 maps, and I never even used it, not gonna lie. But I just know it sucks, like all other prop planes do. And this about wraps it up for the tutorial. If there's any questions that you might have, make sure to ask me in the comments below, and I will try to answer them as fast as I can. CAS honestly isn't hard at all though. I hope this tutorial somewhat helped, and I'll see you in the next one.